York Comic Con, and I'm answering questions for AOL.
All right, George, our first question is just like, what are you excited for this year here at New York Comic Con?
The thing I was excited about the most was to meet members of the Young Animal team that I hadn't met yet. I hadn't met Nick and I hadn't met Marley, and I was really thrilled to meet them. And I got to meet Nick Darrington's wife too, so it was really cool.
Can you just talk about how you got into comics, where this inspiration all started?
Sure, yeah. I got into comics really young. I had to get my tonsils out, and my grandma bought me some comics to read in the hospital, and then I was hooked. And then I was always buying them. And then I started writing them at 15, and then I went to art school. My major was cartooning illustration. I interned at DC for a year and a half, so I have a long comics history. And then I got a job as a toy designer, but then I had started a band called My Chemical Romance, and it took off. So I had to quit my job, but I hoped I would be able to come back to comics one day. So.
And growing up, what kind of characters and what series did you grow up?
I was really into the X-Men.
Really? Marvel?
Yeah, I was super into the X-Men, yeah. I mean, but I liked all things. But then once, as a kid, I really dug X-Men, and that was Claremont Silvestri run. But then when I started to kind of enter middle school, that's when I discovered Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns. So then it shifted over to that, and then I discovered Doom Patrol, Shade, the Vertigo stuff. So once I was on that path, then I was pretty much out of traditional superheroes. And then I got in, at a young age, I got into Love and Rockets, Fantagraphics books. So I was definitely reading more underground stuff, more the real abstract superhero stuff.
So X-Men was kind of the initial thing. What kind of attracted to you to that?
Well, what attracted me to X-Men was that they were outsiders. I liked that they saved the world, but you couldn't take their photo. They didn't register on cameras, and I thought that was really cool. I liked that they were, they were constantly persecuted. They had all these weird interrelationships happening that were very complex, and they just looked cool,
And you got a favorite mutant?
Favorite mutant, Longshot. Yeah.
And kind of you, if you had to pick a superhero power, what would it be? And why?
I always say flight, just because, one, it would help me get over my fear of heights, I think, and then it would be cool to be able to fly. So I always just go with the basic.
And you're very experienced with this whole thing now, the cons and stuff.
Yeah.
For someone that's their first time, like us, how would you recommend going about and navigating this kind of thing?
All right. Well, you need a bag and you need to stay hydrated. Those seem to be the two things, And I understand the draw to standing in a really long line to wait for a toy, but maybe just don't do that so much. Maybe try to walk Artist Alley and discover new artists. That's a lot of what's here is things for you to discover, But I totally understand the collectible nature of things too.
And you started out going to these things when you were really young. Can you talk about that and maybe a memorable experience?
Yeah. So my dad used to bring me and my brother to the Javits Center very early on for the convention. So we would come, and I just remember the year Spawn was huge, and they had the big Spawn funny car, and we would come every year. And then he would also take us here for the auto shows too. So we were here a lot. Yeah.
And so what are you promoting this year?
This year I'm promoting Young Animal, which is the imprint that DC Comics gave me to do, I guess, alternative comics.
And so you started out, loving comic books as a kid, then you interned for DC. How does it feel to actually be making comics for them? If you were a kid looking at yourself now, what would you be thinking?
I'm constantly going through that. If I think about, I often think about if I was a kid, and then what I get to do now. I don't know if I'd be able to process it. I'm just really lucky.
And so what are you most excited about for the future?
I'm excited to keep writing Doom Patrol. I'm excited to have more books, to be a part of Young Animal. I would love to see it grow. I would love to cross over with the regular DC universe. But I like being in our own pocket right now. It's really fun, and I don't got to worry about continuity, and it's pretty cool. But I would love to see it grow into something where, maybe there's a year, or maybe when I finish my run on Doom, maybe I'm not writing a new book for Young Animal, but maybe I'm still overseeing it, and I'm still helping come up with projects.
How long does it take you, like, creative process to, like, you know, write a book, or like what is the creative process for this stuff?
It's lengthy. All right. So I have notebooks, and I handwrite all my notes, just stream of consciousness. These notebooks are a combination of story elements, dialogue, and angry letters to myself, and I kind of write, and it switches back and forth. And then when I have a handle on it, I take everything and I dump it into the computer, and then I format it. And then that takes weeks, and I grind myself pretty hard making comics.
Do you have like a specific environment that you like when you're writing, and like how does that compare to when you're songwriting?
I just do it in my office. Songwriting, it can happen. Well, it's like if I can make a voice memo on a phone to make a demo, and I can type on a phone to do that. So it's very similar. And I do both in my office. I write music and comics in the same office.
And we have someone actually asked, Dorothy asked, my son is going to be 13 on October 20th. He draws cartoons constantly, and he gives suggestions for comic drawings or comic lovers.
Yeah, like to kind of get jobs in comics, like to work.
Or like gifts, like presents. Or like,
presents?
Like, what would you love to like receive as a gift as like a comic book lover?
I would have loved to receive the first volume of Doom Patrol by Grant Morrison. Not mine, but they make these graphic novels now, and they're large collections. I would have loved that as a kid.
Is there anything else you want to say?
Nah, I'm having fun. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem.